Welcome back. Today we'll be discussing on innovation in the educational sector, and joining me to discuss it is Adetola Salau, a social innovative entrepreneur. You're welcome.
Glad to be here.
Wow, that's great. And it's really interesting what you're doing regarding STEM education, encouraging children to take up roles in science, technology, and mathematics. Very great. All right, now tell us about what inspired your journey into STEM education.
Curiosity. I've always wanted to know how things work as a child. I've always wanted to know how a VCR machine worked, how the TV worked, and why the blender blended a certain way. So it really be all about curiosity, wanting to know why. That was what drove it.
Okay, wow, curiosity. That's interesting. All right, now just tell us about, how long has this journey been like, in terms of what actually led you, to actually delve deep into, science, technology, and mathematics, and your passion for actually encouraging children, to actually learn more regarding science.
It's a journey of over 35 years, and a lot of it has been driven by my parents, in particular my mother. My mother is a scientist, and she's one I would call an organic scientist because she's more about how things work and how it relates back to your life, how it applies to your life. So I always saw her imbibe that and carry that out in our home. That was her driving ethos. Everything that she did was how does it apply to make life better? Things must make sense, logic. So constantly I saw her carry that out. I saw her do that. And I wanted to be like that. It was, to me, a life that was worth living, life that made sense because you could see direct applications and that it benefited others. So she constantly was applying science. And when I saw that, I said, you know what, I want to be like this. I want to be that person who will solve other people's problems using engineering and science principles.
Wow, that's
And
really great.
that's my life now.
All right, now recently you actually got the position of a special advisor on STEM education here in Lagos State. So, how do you intend to use that role to impact the lives of children, and most especially the educational sector, to boost, children's performance in terms of science, technology, and mathematics?
I am actually currently the senior special assistant on STEM education. What we are planning to do and what we're working on right now is our initiatives that will make sure that we change how our students learn. That's their learning outcomes, which means that we have to involve three sectors. I like to call it the trinity of education. We have to make sure that parents are involved. We have to make sure that the teachers, we have a lot of training programs and reform the way they go about teaching our students in those areas, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and also changing the way our students perceive mathematics and science. Whenever I go for a lot of conferences and I have direct interaction with our students, the first thing they tell me is, oh, I don't like mathematics, or I had this horrible mathematics teacher, or horrible science teacher. We want to change that because you see, a lot of what we're using now, our phones, even these cameras, were created and invented by people who loved it and applied science and engineering principles in the other nations. And a lot of our students think, oh, it's only those people who can do that. No, that's not true. We had a lot of our ancestors and forebearers who were very good in these areas, and they were able to create a lot of inventions. In fact, I just read recently, trying to remember, it was somebody who had invented email. A lot of people think that it started in the West, it started in America. It was actually in India. So I like to let our students see examples and look, it's not always in the quote unquote developed nations. There are a lot of these inventions were actually created by people who look like you and come from quote unquote non-developed nations. So it's possible to do these things here. It's possible for you to create your own solutions here. And that's what we want to change. We want to change that narrative.
Wow, that's really great. Now, you wrote a book about the roadmap for transforming mindsets of African children and re-engineering minds for innovation. Now, tell us about it. What actually made you to write that book?
Precisely what I just spoke about. When I was teaching, because I used to be an educator in the United States, and when I was teaching, I taught in over 4 states. Yes, over 4 states there. And when I was teaching our students there, a lot of times they would say, oh, Black people are not any good at mathematics. And that would really make me really upset. I will ask them, who told you that? Who told you to believe that Black people are not good at any mathematics or any science. Oh, a black person couldn't do that. And I said, who told you that? And I'm glad that they're seeing a lot more examples of people who are telling them that it's possible for us to do this. We can do this. We can solve our own problems. In fact, I'm looking at the situation right now in the world with the pandemic. And it gladdened my heart when I'm hearing about what Madagascar is doing. And I'm also hearing about people here in Nigeria who are in their own labs working out their own quote unquote homegrown solutions and putting these things together. So our students can see that, you know what, you can actually think outside the box. You can create your own solutions to local problems. So yeah, that's what the book really, in essence, is about.
Wow, that's really interesting. And what impact has your platform made in terms of, the educational system in Nigeria?
We have gone around, I can't even count how many states now. Abuja, Nasarawa, Cross River, Akwa Ibom, Rivers. Yeah, we went to Benin.
Okay.
We've gone around the nation. We've worked with over, how many teachers now? Over 1,000 teachers. And the thing about teachers, people don't understand how powerful it is when you touch one teacher. I remember there was a conference where we were working with 50 to 100 teachers. And one of those teachers told us that she had 250 students in her class. And I literally was like, oh my God, it was a chemistry teacher. So imagine if I had every teacher in that conference having 250 students. Imagine how many students were impacting by touching all those teachers. In fact, that really was a game changer for me when that teacher opened up and said that. I've always known that our teachers touch a lot of students, but that really made me understand more than ever that, my God, we have to keep touching these teachers. We have to keep working with them. So yes, by working with these teachers across these different states, we've had quite a bit of impact. But I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing here in Lagos State, because Lagos State, we have over 5 million children. And I think to myself, we're able to carry out these interventions here, and people are able to see what we can demonstrate here. Then people want to replicate it in other states. So we're really excited about that, and we're looking forward to what we're going to be doing here.
Wow, that's really great. And what I'd like to find out is that what were your biggest fears when you actually ventured into creating this platform? Because you've been on this journey for quite some time now, and looking at STEM education right here in Nigeria, it's definitely not an easy thing, because you just mentioned earlier on about the perception, people have about black people, the fear students have, most especially in terms of mathematics and science. I remember growing up as a child, and your science teacher or mathematics teacher was very wonderful. You understand? So a lot of people tend to move to
run away, to the arts, run away from science. Yes.
So it would be interesting to find out. You understand, what were your fears when you ventured into this?
My fears were people being able to understand what we were really trying to do, and unfortunately, the mindset that we have is, what, we've always been doing this. Why should we really change things? Why should we do things differently? And unfortunately, I did encounter a couple of people like that. In fact, one of them was at a place I never expected. So it's been a challenging journey. But what revives me and what gives me the impetus to continue and to keep pushing is when I think about our children. Last year was 2019. Last year, I spoke at a conference at Princeton. And what blew my mind was not the college students or even my colleagues, professionals that were speaking at that conference. What blew my mind were the 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds who came to present their own scientific findings, their own research, from little things that they were doing in the kitchen or that they saw happening in their classroom. And they're like, we want to investigate this phenomena. We want to understand why it's like this. And I was just amazed. In fact, the 13-year-old was a young girl from India. I kept asking her questions and talking to her. I also met a boy from Uganda. He and his mom, they live now in Washington, D.C. in the U.S., 16-year-old. And he was also talking about his own discoveries. And I said, you know what, this is what I want us to do in Nigeria. I want us to have a forum where our children will experiment, they will research, they'll do things, and they'll be able to come and talk about their findings. Oh, I did this and I did this, and I want you guys to see what I'm doing. And I want other people to join me and try this and try that. And I said, this is what we need to do. It's not people who are older coming to talk about it. Making these children excited about discovery, making them excited about inventing things. And that was another game changer for me, that conference. And since then, I said, you know what, we have to come back and do this in Nigeria. And those are some of the things we're working to do here in Lagos State.
Wow, that's really awesome. I must really commend you for the great exploits you've made so far. And I'm sure you have so much to say. But right now, we need to go on a quick break. I'll be right back. We're going on a short break right now. We'll be right back.